How's it going, everyone? This is Adam from Slurve, Ship My Money on DraftKings, and I'll be breaking down today's pitching slate for you. I think today's a pretty fun slate because it's the first one we've had in a while where you're not forced to pay up for a top pitcher because of a lack of options in the mid tier. Um, there's just a lot of really good mid tier options today, so it'll be a pretty fun day to be able to get good pitchers and still get some bats in. Like always, I'll start with some cash game pitchers and then move into the higher upside, riskier GPP options that I like for today. Starting with cash, my favorite pitcher, depending on weather, for GPP or cash today is Joe Ross going against the Tigers. It's just a perfect matchup for him facing a right-handed heavy lineup. He's much better against right-handed pitching. Really high strikeout rate against right-handed batting. A really high strikeout rate against right-handed hitting. The Tigers this year are striking out about 24% of the time against right-handed pitching. They've got a lot of power, but Joe Ross just has a great slider and really neutralizes those right-handed bats. So I think this is a perfect matchup for Ross. The issue is the weather. Right now, it's kind of unclear if that game's going to get in or if there's going to be rain delays or what's going to happen there. So definitely keep an eye on that. But if the game is able to go, then I definitely like Joe Ross a lot today. He's priced at 8,100 on FanDuel and 7,700 on DraftKings. So a very fair price on both sites. My number two cash pitcher today on both sites is on DraftKings is Adam Conley at 7,500. Facing a Brewers team who hits better against left-handed pitching than they do right-handed pitching, but they're still not good. They still strike out about 22% of the time. Their WOBA is down 298 WOBA, 81 WRC plus. So they're not a good offense. They're just better than they are against righties. But Conley this year has been really good against right-handed hitting. 29.1% strikeout rate and a 3.5 xFIP. So I'm not worried about the Brewers getting to him in this matchup. He's just been really good this year. Plus the game's in Miami, so it's a home game for him. It's not in Miller Park, more importantly. So I just think that's a really good matchup for him. He's a little more expensive on FanDuel. He's priced at 8,400. So FanDuel, I think I like Adam Morgan a little bit more than Conley, but I like them both, and I think they're both in play in cash. Adam Morgan, I think is in play on DraftKings as well. He's 5,500 on DraftKings, 6,100 on FanDuel, and he's shown better strikeout stuff this year. So far for the season, he's got a 22% strikeout rate. In the minors, his strikeout numbers were up as well. And he's facing a Braves team who really they can't hit anybody, but they really can't hit left-handed pitching, especially now they've sent Adonis Garcia to the minors, so they just don't have really any right-handed bats in that lineup that scare me. So Adam Morgan, I think, is in a really good spot. The Braves so far this year against left-handed pitching, or dating back to last year against left-handed pitching, strike out about 21.5% of the time, 275 WOBA, 71 WRC plus, and like I said, they don't even have Adonis Garcia anymore. So this is just a really good spot for Adam Morgan. Plus the game's in Atlanta, so he's not even pitching in Philadelphia at the smaller ballpark. So I like him in cash as well. It seems risky to put Adam Morgan in cash, but he's just so cheap, and he's got upside and safety against the Braves. And today, where there's a lot of hitters you're gonna want to pay up for, I think he's a good option. Now, I will say, John Lester's got a good matchup against the Padres. He's just priced so high that I think, and there's so many bats on the board today, I think there's better routes to go than to pay up for Lester. So I think Ross, Conley, and Morgan are all in play for me in GPPs as well because they just have upside at their price. They all get strikeouts. They're all facing teams that strike out easily. But some other options that you can pivot off them too that I think have really good upside in GPPs. The first one is Kevin Gausman going against the Twins today. He's 7,700 on FanDuel, 8,200 on DraftKings. So on FanDuel, he's actually a little bit cheaper than Joe Ross and than Conley. DraftKings, he's $100 more than Ross, $700 more than Conley, and I think that'll really keep his ownership down. But he's looked really good this year. He's facing a Twins team that strikes out about 22%, 23% of the time against right-handed pitching. They hit them well, 327 WOBA, 107 WRC plus. But this game's in Minnesota, where the Twins do generally hit better there, but it's also a ballpark boost for Gausman. And so far, dating back to his rehab starts in the minors this year, and then so far in the majors, he's just had really, really good strikeout, swing and miss stuff. His last start against the Yankees, he only had, I think, 4 strikeouts. But the Yankees are a team that don't really strike out that often, so I'm not too worried about that. And he still pitched great. He went 8 innings, could have gone 9. So I think he's really interesting to me today. So far in his career, he's had reverse splits because he was basically a fastball changeup pitcher, so he was a lot better against lefties. But so far this year, he's been good against righties as well, striking out about 22% with a 3.16 xFIP. It is a small sample size, but he did work a lot on his breaking ball in the offseason and spring training, so there is reason to think that he's going to be better against right-handed pitching from this point forward as well. So I'm not going to be really worried even if the Twins do have their usual right-handed heavy lineup. If they play more lefties than usual for some reason, then that's even better for Gausman. But I just think it's a really good matchup for him either way. If I pay up for a pitcher in GPP, it's going to be Drew Smyly against the Mariners. Because I think Lester's going to just draw ownership because he's facing the Padres and people flock to the Padres. But on DraftKings at 10,500, I think Smiley's priced close enough to the bigger names like DeGrom and Lester. And same on FanDuel at 9,400. That his ownership is going to be down because it's not an ideal matchup against the Mariners. But the Mariners do strike out between 21 and 22% of the time against left-handed pitching. And Nelson Cruz is banged up. Franklin Gutierrez, still isn't playing very well. And Smiley's got a 29% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching so far this year, 31% overall. So that's a matchup I like. I don't know if I'll go there just because I think there's just mid-tier pitchers with huge upside as well, and I want to get all the bats that I can today. But I think Smiley's in play, for GPPs at low ownership. And then if you move down, other than Morgan, I like Chris Davinsky at 6,400 on FanDuel, 6,500 on DraftKings. He's in Houston, which, is risky. He's facing an Indians team that hits righties, pretty well, but they also strike out about 23% of the time against righties. So I think Davinsky's got some upside. Plus, he's pretty good against lefties. He's got a really good changeup, which will help neutralize, those powerful lefty bats the Indians have, in Brantley and Lindor, Santana, and whichever guy I'm forgetting, Kipnis. So that's a matchup where I don't think he'll be highly owned, especially on DraftKings, because he's priced really close to Juan Nicasio, who I assume in that price range will get the most ownership just because he's had the most success for people this year, and he's facing the Reds. So I think Davinsky's a good alternative to him. And then Jose Berrios, I don't think I'll have exposure today just because I don't really need, I don't know why I would pay $7,000 for him on DraftKings when I can just get that $700 and pay for Ross, or $500 and pay for Conley. But he does have upside and he won't be owned, so he's at least worth mentioning if you really want to roll the dice and go with a really high strikeout pitcher against a good offense that also strikes out. So that's where I'm looking today for pitchers. For cash, I'm really interested Adam Morgan, Adam Conley, and Joe Ross. And then for GPPs, I like Morgan, Ross, and Conley, but also am definitely interested in Kevin Gausman, and then possibly paying up for Drew Smyly at low ownership, or paying down and getting either Chris Davinsky or maybe Jose Berrios. Berrios, I think, is more in play on FanDuel because he's priced a little bit lower, and the other options are more expensive. But he does have upside. Now for the pitchers that I want to get bats against, I think today it's there's a lot of obvious spots, but there's enough of them that they might not all be highly owned. So starting with Coors Field, that's the obvious one. The weather there is, a little iffy. I'm hoping that game stays, the weather reports stay kind of vague on that game, because I wouldn't mind just getting low ownership, and then if it doesn't play, I lose. But if I can get low ownership in that matchup, that would be awesome for GPPs. Definitely interested in lefties against Ruby De La Rosa. He's very good against righties. He's very bad against lefties. So, I'm definitely interested in, Carlos Gonzalez, Parra, Blackman, Paulson, if he plays, I'm always interested in. And then Chris Rusin going against the Diamondbacks is just the perfect spot for the Diamondbacks. They hit lefties well. Rusin's not a terrible pitcher, but he's in Coors Field, and you've just got all of that right-handed power on Arizona. So I think they're all in play. Moving off of that game, I'm really interested in Boston. I wish they hadn't scored so many runs yesterday because it's a really good spot for them today. You're facing a lefty, and if people look at their numbers versus lefties so far this year, it doesn't stand out because they still haven't faced that many of them. So they're getting a rookie lefty in Sean Manaea at home, good spot to hit, and they just have so much talent in that lineup. I think it's a really, really good spot today, and I'm hoping people won't pay attention to it again, but they probably will. Houston against Trevor Bauer is interesting to me. If Bauer's on, he can strike guys out, and Houston does strike out. But when he's off, he's just missing all over the place. So, one, he's going to be putting base runners on, and everyone on Houston can hit the ball out, especially in that ballpark. So, base runners on, and then 3-run home runs gets you a lot of points. And also, if his command's off, that means he's leaving balls over the plate, too, and he's going to be hittable. So I really like Houston, and I could see them being overlooked today. And then the last team I like is, just go back to the well on the Yankees, facing Chris Medlin, who's really, really bad against lefties. He's in Yankee Stadium. Yankees have a lefty-heavy lineup. I assume their ownership would be up a little bit today since they hit so many home runs yesterday, but I still don't think it'll be super high, especially with all these games. But Medlin against lefties so far this year is a 343 WOBA, 589 xFIP. He only strikes out at 15% of batters, and his ground ball to fly ball ratio is .77. So you have a bunch of left-handed hitters in Yankee Stadium making contact and hitting fly balls hard. So, that's just a really good spot, again, for the Yankees hitters against Medlin. So, those are my thoughts right now on cash pitchers and then GPP pitchers and stacks. Stop into the Slurve chat later today, especially with all the weather. Get my thoughts as I'm building my lineups and where I actually will be going. So definitely, stop in the Slurve, and good luck today, guys.